Can you believe that I believe that the devil is in my house? Good morning, everyone. This is Stone Gasman live from New York City. And this morning we are going to be doing an audio commentary for Something Evil, the 1972 television horror movie directed by some guy named Steven Spielberg. I've honestly never heard of the guy, and we'll probably be talking a lot about him during the commentary. But I didn't know what to expect with this one. This is one of three television movies that Steven Spielberg made before his theatrical debut, Sugarland Express, with Goldie Hawn in 1974. Those three television movies are Duel, which is now recognized as an absolute classic. Something Evil, number two, is the movie we're about to watch. And then the third film is Savage from 1973, which we'll obviously wait until next year before we tackle that. But this is the movie that Steven Spielberg shot immediately after Duel. Universal was very, very happy with his work on that film, particularly when he picked up shots for international release and everything. But Duel has been recognized as Spielberg's debut, 100%. And it is a genuine thriller. It's inspired many other films that I like, specifically Breakdown, starring Kurt Russell. But Something Evil and Savage are not nearly ever mentioned in the same breath as Duel. As a matter of fact, they're never mentioned, period. And that's why I'm actually really interested in doing this obscure film from Spielberg. But at any rate, just to let you know, this is where you can watch it, available for free on YouTube. I'm paused at 000. We got a pair of sinister eyes. And like I said in the chat, this looks like a shot from the Bat People, the 1974 atrocious Wolfman ripoff, which actually featured the effect for the first time from Stan Winston, then billed as Stanley Winston. But we'll talk about the Bat People in a couple years when we get to the 50th anniversary for that. But at any rate, let's go ahead and get started. And I think you all are going to find this a lot of fun. Oh, but before I press play, I want to say hi to those in the chat. That Muse, lovely to see you. I've not ever seen this one. I'm intrigued. Oh, you'll definitely be intrigued, definitely. And Rob, always great to see you, sir. I haven't seen this one either. Last work of Spielberg's I still needed to check out. Really? So you've seen the 1973 television movie Savage? Admittedly, I've only seen maybe 70% of Spielberg's filmography. To be perfectly honest, I haven't seen a new Steven Spielberg movie in like 10 years, ever since I tried to watch Lincoln. And ironically enough, there is a character in this movie named Lincoln. And at one point, I thought somebody yelled Jaws, but no, that didn't happen. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started here, okay? So we're paused on 000. We see these eyes. Count of 3, 2, 1, and play. So yes, this is Steven Spielberg's second television movie after Duel and before Savage. And this and Savage got basically a mixed reaction at the time. Now, it should be noted that, okay, we need to start off with a discussion about the made-for-television movie, because a lot of people need to understand that this was released at a time when there were only three television stations. I mean, there was NBC, ABC, and CBS. And I should know if PBS was already there at that time, but I don't. Cable wouldn't come around for another 8-9 years. From 1972, it wouldn't be until the 80s until VHS and cable. So this was made at a time when there were only three channels, and this was broadcast on Friday night, January 21st, 1972, just a few months after Duel. And Duel, of course, was the talk of everybody that saw it. I mean, granted, I wasn't there, but when I did the commentary on it for it last year, there were people in the chat and people on Twitter that were saying, "Oh, believe me, after the morning after Duel premiered, everybody was talking about it. Everybody and their grandmother was talking about Duel." Now, yeah, so we open up on a guy just jumping out of a barn. Like I said, we'll get to, oh yeah, and the the pentacle. That looks like a marijuana leaf in the center. I seriously thought that was a marijuana leaf at some point. I was like, is this a pot farm? Because no, actually, we're opening up on the star of the movie. This is Sandy Dennis right here. Now, I'm trying to think if I've seen Sandy Dennis in anything. I don't think so. I know she, was an actress, and I know that she won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Not a favorite, not a favorite of mine, I got to admit, but she did in fact win the Oscar for that. I should have known that. I apologize. But she was also in The Out of Towners with Jack Lemmon. That was actually right before this, actually. She was also in The Four Seasons, directed by Alan Alda. 976 Evil. I think a lot of horror fans love that one in particular. She was in Woody Allen's Another Woman. And then she also did a bunch of television, including The Fugitive, Naked Light, Naked City, Guiding Light, and The Love Boat, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and Police Story. And Something Evil was only a handful of television films that she made. Like I said, being not a fan of Virginia Woolf, I probably should have known that she, that her connection to that and everything, but unfortunately that did not pop in my mind. I just don't care for it. As landmark as it is, I don't care for it. Now, oh yes, 976 Evil. Yes, indeed. Classic. Oh, Sandy, lovely to see you. This is awesome. I've never seen this film, even though I was alive at the time. Well, just to let you know, we're coming up on the 4-minute mark. Wonderful to have you here tonight. Yeah, so now we just saw the husband there. His name is Darren McGavin. There he is right there wearing the cap right there. Famously played the old man in A Christmas Story. And so this was but before we talk about Darren McGavin, we got to talk about this other actor right here named Jeff Corey. Now, I know that I saw his name. See, you see certain names flash up on the screen and you think to yourself, where have I seen this actor before? I know I've seen him in stuff. But yeah, he was actually blacklisted in the 1950s. Unfortunately, he was a victim of the blacklist. But he started out in the late 30s with movies like I Am the Law and One Third of a Nation. And then in the 1940s, he did a bunch of movies uncredited. 1950s, here again, a lot of television, but he also did movies like 14 Hours and Superman and the Mole Men. He was actually in that movie with George Reeves, which was basically the pilot for the Superman series in the 1950s, which of course was later broadcast in theaters. Or shown in theaters, excuse me. Lady in a Cage, 1964. The Cincinnati Kid. He was also in Cold Blood as Mr. Hickok, a very famous movie based on the novel by Truman Capote about a murder. The Boston Strangler, which is actually more fiction than anything else. If you want to check out the Boston Strangler, check out some books about that very famous serial killer, which just real quick, I will say before I move on but here are the titles real quick. Something Evil. I don't mind the artwork. I mean, I don't mind the artwork at all. I actually think that there's Jeff Corey, who I was just talking about. There's his credit. But yeah, this is actually a nice title sequence, which I think, just focusing on her painting and then having the names just pop up was actually a nice choice. Like I said, this is very, very young Steven Spielberg. But he said that he was never comfortable making this movie because he did not have control over the final cut, and he didn't even have control during production. I mean, the budget was slashed afterward, and you would think after impressing so many people with Duel that people would have trusted you at this time, but no, not necessarily. But granted, this all happened during production where the budget got slashed. And now, written by Robert Klaus. That's a very, very interesting credit. Robert Klaus, and there's directed by Steven Spielberg, of course, but Robert Klaus is the guy who directed Enter the Dragon. That's not a joke. He directed Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee 1 year later. But we'll talk about Robert Klaus a bit later. Let's get back to Jeff Corey here, who is right here on the left. This actor, Jeff Corey. He also played Tom Chaney in the 1969 version of True Grit, Sheriff Bledsoe in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Caspe in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Getting Straight, They Call Me Mr. Tibbs. He was also Wild Bill Hickok in Little Big Man. That's where I recognize him from Little Big Man. He also played the Doctor in The Last Tycoon, Curse of the Black Widow, Oh God, with George Burns, The Wild Geese. I've never seen The Wild Geese, but I'm never going to. He was also in Conan the Destroyer, Bird on a Wire with Mel Gibson. And one of his last films was actually Surviving the Game, starring Rutger Hauer, based on The Most Dangerous Game, the very famous short story about man being hunted on an island. Really, really awesome story. Oh, he was also in Color of Night. Color of Night was the 1994 Worst Picture winner, starring Bruce Willis as a man who is in love with a 17-year-old woman. Yeah. Uh, so we won't talk anymore about that one. But that's Jeff Corey. Now let's talk about Darren McGavin right here, who you will probably recognize from A Christmas Story. So he passed away in 2006 at the age of 83. But his other big film credits include Airport 77 with Jack Lemmon, which was the third in the Airport series. There was actually 4 of those movies. Hot Lead and Cold Feet, the Disney movie with Jim Dale, who I'm a very big fan of, the British comic actor Jim Dale. Happy Hell Night, 1992. He was also in Billy Madison. Yeah, he played. Did he play Billy Madison's father? Oh, he was. I thought he was more of an uncle. Oh, okay, yeah. I haven't seen Billy Madison in a while, but that was one of his last films, sadly. But yeah, he began his career working as a set painter for Columbia Pictures. 1954, he originated roles on Broadway productions My Three Angels and The Rainmaker, followed by roles in David Lean's Summertime and Otto Preminger's The Man with the Golden Arm. On television, McGavin played the title character in Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer, as well as starred in Riverboat and Kolchak the Night Stalker. For his recurring role on the sitcom Murphy Brown, he received a nomination for the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Comedy Series. Despite playing a significant role in the baseball film The Natural, due to a contract dispute, McGavin was uncredited for his portrayal as shady bookie Gus Sands. Now, you got to remember at this time, A Christmas Story was not the cult hit that we know of today. It actually had a pretty moderate theatrical release where it barely got its budget back. I mean, in fact, it was actually even gone by most theaters by Christmas of '83. But as far as film is concerned, he had some uncredited roles in the 1940s. Um, and he was also in the Great Sioux Massacre, No Deposit, No Return, another Disney film, Turk 182, Raw Deal with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the 1990 version of Captain America, and his last film was 2008's Still Waters Burn. So, but of course, everybody knows him as the father, the old man in A Christmas Story. Just real quick, my favorite moment in that film is, well, one of my favorites is when Christmas morning, when the mother comes down and is overjoyed to see the kids open up the present, and he just comes down the stairs, looks real quick, and he's like, ugh. It's like, whatever. That's the old man for you. That and his priceless pornography leg that he won in the contest. But anyway, I'm going to shut up about Christmas Story now because it's not Christmas yet, and we can wait till then. But yeah, Darren McGavin, I don't know if he just phones it in, but I've seen this movie 3 times today, and like he just goes through the motions with this film. He doesn't, of course, he doesn't believe his wife when things go haywire, and I'm not trying to give everything away because I know that there are people watching it for the first time. But I just and maybe it's just the television quality or whatever, but just these performances don't really shine through all that well. I mean, I found them pretty routine and standard as far as just going through the motions, just getting through another haunted farm or haunted house thriller. And that's the thing, is that in the 1970s, in the late 60s, early 70s, there were dozens of these. There were dozens of these made for TV movies. This one just happens to have a marquee name attached to it, and is pretty much the only reason why people go back and discover it now. There are interesting things about this film, even though I don't think it's really entirely a success. It does. The thing about these early made-for-TV movies is that the running time, it feels like one of those movies you'd see in the theaters in the 40s, which would be like 70 minutes or whatever. And like, you don't have a lot of time to invest in the characters or the story. You just watch the events unfold. But at the same time, like, there were a couple of people that I talked with before I did this commentary that, for what it is, it's not bad. For what it is, it's a early 1970s made for TV haunted farm movie. And there are some cool shots that, I mean, I don't know if I would call them Spielbergian, although, I mean, since he directed it, I guess it will fit anyway. But there are a number of shots where you can tell that he's really, really trying to experiment with the camera, even under the most strict of television working conditions. I mean, he does some cool things with the camera in this movie. That being said, I think the performances are largely uninspired. Good actors given mediocre material, basically. And the cast, unfortunately, isn't interesting enough. That's the thing. I mean, sure, Sandy Dennis won an Academy Award, but watching this film, I never would have guessed it. I never would have guessed that this woman had won an Oscar before. I seriously, and that's what I'm saying, is that this movie, it just kind of suffers from constraints and Spielberg not given a lot of leeway and a lot of autonomy, as it were. The kid from Sigmund and the Sea Monster. Yes, we are going to talk about him eventually in a minute. Absolutely, yes. Because I did a commentary with him earlier in the year, which is a Disney film called Napoleon and Samantha. Now, just try to imagine this, okay? Napoleon and Samantha is basically this kid in this movie I know I should give know his name by now, but uh, but just to be absolutely, Johnny Whitaker. That's his name, Johnny Whitaker as Stevie Warden. He was in a movie called Napoleon and Samantha, which was released by Disney in the summer of 1972. I did a 50th anniversary commentary on it just a few months ago. Basically, he and Jodie Foster, in her film debut, she's 10 years old, they basically travel over some mountains with a lion. They eventually meet this very young, just out of high schooler, played by Michael Douglas, who wants to be sure they're taken care of and everything. Later in the film, they eventually all meet together, and then he leaves the kids with somebody up in the mountains. He goes to a police station, finds out that this man is essentially, it doesn't say on the poster, it doesn't say on the wanted poster, but all language on there basically implies that he's a pedophile. So Michael Douglas jumps on a motorcycle, John Rambo style, and goes all the way back up to the mountain to save the kids from this pedophile. Walt Disney Pictures presents Napoleon and Samantha. And luckily that lion was there at the end to take care of the bad guy. But okay, so here's the first of a couple scenes where Sandy Dennis basically just comes out to investigate this what sounds like a baby. Now, when this sequence started initially, the first time I watched it, I couldn't quite tell if it was a baby or a cat, because it kind of sounded like a cat. But it actually, in fact, was a baby. And so, but of course, she opens it up and what? It's just a rat. Oh, okay, no big deal. Now, like I said before, I mean, Spielberg, I mean, if you look at the camera work, I mean, you can tell that he is, he's doing his job. Bottom line is he's doing his job under the most strict of television circumstances. Now, okay, this is Johnny Whitaker, who I was talking about before, that's in Napoleon and Samantha. Oh, you should totally check out Napoleon and Samantha. It's just epic. But he also played the title character in the 1973 musical version of Tom Sawyer, which I probably will be doing a 50th anniversary commentary of that next year as a double feature with Huckleberry Finn, because there was back-to-back musicals that year, both Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. Johnny Whitaker was born in the Los Angeles neighborhood of Van Nuys, the fifth of 8 children of Thelma and John O. Whitaker Sr. Whitaker began his professional acting career at the age of 3 by appearing in a television commercial for a local used car dealer. He went on to appear in advertisements for Mattel toys, such toys as Larry the Lion and Crackers the Parrot in their Animal Yackers series. In 1965, Whitaker originated the character of the young Scotty Baldwin in the soap opera General Hospital. In 1966, he acted in a major feature film, The Russians Are Coming, which also starred Brian Keith. After Keith was cast as the lead in the television series Family Affair, he recommended Whitaker to play the part of his on-screen nephew. Family Affair aired from 1966 to 1971. So if you were watching Something Evil in 1972, everybody would have known Johnny Whitaker from this television series called Family Affair. It co-starred Whitaker playing the role of an orphan boy named Jody Davis, living in a high-rise apartment in New York City with his twin sister Buffy and older sister Sissy, his bachelor uncle Bill Davis, and Bill's gentleman Mr. French, played by Sebastian Cabot. Jody and Buffy were originally supposed to be different ages, but the show's producers thought Whitaker and Jones looked so cute together, they changed them to be twins. Oh. While a regular on the show, Whitaker also starred in the Hallmark Hall of Fame production The Littlest Angel, alongside Fred Gwynne and Tony Randall. and an episode of the long-running Western The Virginian in 1969. After Family Affair, he appeared in a two-part episode of Gunsmoke, and he also went on to star in the 1973 Sid and Marty Krofft Saturday morning children's series, Sigmund and the Sea Monster. And also Disney feature films like Snowball Express, The Biscuit Eater, The Magic Pony, and Napoleon and Samantha. I will never forget that movie. His most prominent feature film role during this period was the lead in the musical version of Tom Sawyer. In an interview with Tom Snyder on The Late Late Show, Whitaker said he had worked as a computer consultant at CBS, later joined a Los Angeles talent agency, Whitaker Entertainment, owned by his sister. In 1999, Whitaker received the Young Artist Former Child Star Lifetime Achievement Award at the 20th Youth in Film Awards. In 2012, Whitaker co-produced and co-hosted a short-lived radio talk show called Dr. Zod and Johnny Show. The following year, he appeared on stage in Judson Theater Company's production of To Kill a Mockingbird in the cameo of Judge Taylor. In 2016, he guest star cameo appearance in Amazon's reboot of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. In the premiere episode, he played the part of a heckling boat owner Zach against David Arquette's salty character Captain Barnabas. The episode had a similar cameo appearance by original show creators Sid and Marty Krofft. Awesome. And he also did like a few episodes of Bewitched and everything, but that's basically it. And I'm not going to read that. But yeah, he's 62. Yeah, 62 years old. He's got a website. So there you go. There's Johnny Whitaker for you. Okay, this party scene is very important because watch the screen right now. Keep your eyes glued to the screen because the director is about to make a cameo, or rather his nose and his hand holding a drink. And you will also see the screenwriter of Jaws, Carl Gottlieb, and that's who Steven Spielberg is talking to. Carl Gottlieb is going to be on the left right here, coming right here. There he is on the left over there. He's talking to Spielberg. You briefly see Steven Spielberg's nose. And in another scene, which is coming up here in just a second, you see him holding his drink, but you don't see his face because he's being obscured by one of the other extras in the movie. Wait for it. Wait for it. This is the second appearance. Carl Gottlieb on the left. Right here, there's Spielberg holding his drink. But you can't see his face. In the earlier part, if you go to 2328, you can barely see Spielberg's nose and a little bit of his forehead. And I think you see, that's about it. Yeah, you don't actually see Spielberg, although he gives himself credit in the cast list at the end, as does Carl Gottlieb. Now, okay, so that party scene went by so quick, and believe me, we never see Carl Gottlieb or Spielberg ever again. Now, Carl Gottlieb, of course, co-wrote Jaws. Yeah, he was given credit along with the author of the book, Peter Benchley. And he also directed Caveman. He also appeared on camera on Ken Berry's Wow Show variety summer television program in 1972. There's a random fact for you. Minor acting roles have included Robert Altman's MASH and the film Clueless. I forget who he is in Clueless, and I've seen Clueless many, many times. He was hired as an actor to appear as Harry Meadows, the editor of the local newspaper, in Jaws. He was hired by his friend Steven Spielberg to redraft the script, adding more dimensions to the characters, particularly humor. His redrafts reduced the role of Meadows, who still appears in the town hall corridor and the tiger shark scene. He wrote a book, The Jaws Log, about the notoriously difficult production of the film. He was enlisted under similar circumstances to work on the Jaws 2 screenplay. He co-wrote the screenplays for The Jerk, in which he played Iron Balls McGinty, and Jaws 3D. Gottlieb contributes to Jaws-related activities such as interviews, including the documentary The Shark is Still Working, and attended Jaws Fest on Martha's Vineyard in June of 2005. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I can guarantee you they were not talking about Jaws in that party scene, because the book wasn't published until 74. So you know what? Now I'm beginning to panic. Now I feel the need to double check that. Just want to make sure I have everything right. 1974. I was right about that. Okay. So, needless to say, Jaws was still 2 years away before they were going to collaborate on that. Okay, now this lady right here who is doing the backup singing, she was later in Spielberg's The Color Purple in 1985. So here she is in just a little bit part, and Spielberg obviously remembered her and called her up and said, "Hey, would you like to be in The Color Purple?" And she said, "Yeah." So. See, Darren McGavin is literally phoning it in right here. He's like, it's almost like everything that his wife says, he doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care. Is like, whatever, you know. He's such a he's kind of a weak husband. He's just, yeah, he's the typical, you know, breadwinner. You know, he's working a lot. He doesn't have a lot of time to be with his son or his wife, and you know, all that stuff. But he's just. He's like, it makes me think of A Christmas Story when he comes down the stairs. There's the devil is in our house. Almost literally, that's his attitude about this whole thing. He's one of those husbands that's pretty much like, well, whatever the lady wants, she gets. So, but the lady is going to undergo a few changes. Look at that! Look at that look that she's emitting right there. Did something possess her body? Oh. I mean, with those POV shots, we know exactly what Spielberg is telling us in terms of the story. Look, I mean, you know, he tells the story very efficiently. That's the thing. That's the thing that I think is most important. He tells it very efficiently with enough interesting and cool camera tricks to make it watchable. This is a watchable movie, but there's really not that much more that's special about it aside from the marquee name behind the camera. Oh, yeah, the copy on YouTube, apparently somebody recorded it off of Star's Family. But you know, I mean, like when a mother gets together with her son and they play around with uh, I had to double check. Yeah, when they play around with pentacles, you know, uh, the moral is, mothers and fathers, is do not let your kids play with pentacles. Do not let them play with any kind of board game that would Dungeons and Dragons. Don't play that. I mean, you'll become a devil worshiper. You know. uh, You know what's amazing? I've never ever touched, even though we never see a Ouija board in this movie. I mean, The Exorcist would come out a year later, but you know, it's amazing. I've never been in a room with a Ouija board in my entire life. I've never been to like over to a friend's house who had a Ouija board. None of that. And then you know, whenever I see it in the Monopoly, near the Monopoly and like the stores and everything, I just shake my head and just laugh. It's like, wow. But anyway, okay, now Here, the gentleman in the red sweater who plays the neighbor to Sandy Dennis and Darren McGavin is, in fact, the legendary actor Ralph Bellamy. Now, most modern audiences will know him because of two films: Trading Places in 1983, where he played Randolph Duke, the brother to Don Amici's Mortimer Duke. And they made a bet of $1 to see if they could turn one of their most valued employees into a poor man on the street, and take a homeless man off the street and make him successful. And yeah, they do that. And then of course the two guys played by Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd plan on getting revenge against the Duke brothers. And Ralph Bellamy, of course, plays the slightly older to Don Amici in that movie. Very, very funny comedy classic of the 80s. His very last movie, Ralph Bellamy's very last movie, though, was actually the massive hit Pretty Woman, where he was actually third billing in Pretty Woman because, yeah, it was Richard Gere, Julia Roberts, and yeah, Julia Roberts was not billed number one, believe it or not. It was Richard Gere, Julia Roberts, and Ralph Bellamy. But Ralph Bellamy had been acting, since the golden age. He wasn't necessarily an A-list star, but he was definitely a working actor for many, many years. Spanned 62 years on stage, film, and television. He played leading roles as well as supporting roles, including a Tony Award for Best Dramatic Actor in Sunrise at Campobello, and an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor for 1937's The Awful Truth. Oh, wow. Irene Dunne and Cary Grant. That is a true classic. He is even on the poster. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, directed by Leo McCarey in 1937. But he started out in 1931 in movies like The Secret Six, The Magnificent Lie, and Surrender. Those juicy pre-code movies that flirted with sexual material in a time where, the censorship groups still hadn't clamped down and everything. But he did a lot of movies in the 30s, lots of movies. In fact, a lot of those pre-code films were actually the same running times as these made-for-television movies, 72, 73, 74 minutes. He was also in Dangerous Intrigue, Boy Meets Girl, 1938. Dance Girl Dance is one of the most recognizable titles on here, directed by Dorothy Arzner. And His Girl Friday. He played Bruce Baldwin in the very famous His Girl Friday with Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart and Katharine Hepburn. He was also in 1941's The Wolfman, believe it or not. He played Colonel Montford in The Wolfman. He was also in The Ghost of Frankenstein, Lady on a Train, The Court Martial of Billy Mitchell, Rawhide, The FBI, Rosemary's Baby. That's right. He played Dr. Abraham Saperstein in Rosemary's Baby. He was also in Oh God with George Burns, Little House on the Prairie, Amazon Women on the Moon. He played Franklin Delano Roosevelt in War and Remembrance. And of course, he also had a cameo in Coming to America. But yeah, legendary actor, so many decades. Highly regarded within the industry, Bellamy served 4 terms as the president of Actors Equity from 1952 to 1964. On film, Bellamy also starred in the Western The Professionals as an oil tycoon married to Claudia Cardinale, opposite adventurers Burt Lancaster and Lee Marvin, and in Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby as an evil physician. In 1970, he played the lead role of Ethan Arcane in the ABC TV series The Most Deadly Game, and Bellamy portrayed Adlai Stevenson in the TV movie The Missiles of October, a treatment of the Cuban Missile Crisis. An Emmy Award nomination for the miniseries The Winds of War, in which Bellamy reprised his Sunrise at Campobello role of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, brought him back into the spotlight. So yeah, that is the legendary Ralph Bellamy for you, and he plays the neighbor in this movie. Here again, he adds marquee value, and of course, the deal with him is that he's hard of hearing, so a lot of the actors have to actually yell. Uh, okay, now this scene right here. See, here he is, sitting by the window, and he's a good distance from Sandy Dennis. And eventually, she's going to feel the need to shout at him so that he understands what she is saying. But that muse. Ralph Bellamy will forever be Dr. Saperstein from Rosemary's Baby for me. He was so great in that. uh, yeah. Rosemary's Baby, Trading Places, and Pretty Woman. I think those are the films that I think everybody will remember him from, not his older ones like His Girl Friday. Well, I mean, he didn't have big roles in those films, too. But he was a long, long time working actor, just like Don Amici. And it's interestingly enough that Spielberg's first television movie, Duel, Dennis Weaver was, I think, after Duel was, I think he was like president of the Screen Actors Guild for a number of years. Let me double check that. I know I mentioned that during the Duel commentary, and it's coming back to me now. Yeah, from 1973 to 75, Dennis Weaver was the president of the Screen Actors Guild. Like I said, that was after Duel. So, okay, I think we covered all four of the major actors here, as well as Jeff Corey. Okay. So now we just passed the 38-minute mark, the 38-minute mark of Something Evil. Like I said, this is only a 74-minute movie, and it's not complicated. It's got the most generic title in the world, and that's part of the reason why nobody ever talks about it too. It's just okay. It's like here's another haunted house, haunted farm movie for you, like Crowhaven Farm, movies like that just nobody remembers these. I'm surprised these Something Evil. Here's something that may blow your mind, but Something Evil is the only Spielberg film that is not available on any form of physical media. It never came out on VHS, never came out on DVD, and it's certainly not on Blu-ray. I'm sure that somebody would want to like maybe buy like Blu-ray sets of like these old made-for-TV movies, movie of the week type things. There is a market, I'm sure, that would be willing to buy them. I probably mentioned this during my Duel commentary, but just in case, I'll make it very, very quick in that there are two television movies from that time that really stick out at me. Trapped, a movie called Trapped with James Brolin, Josh Brolin's dad, where he plays a guy that is trying to say goodbye to his wife and child, before she gets a divorce and everything. And he's about to buy something in a mall, and he gets knocked out in the bathroom. And he wakes up after the store. It's like a department store after it's closed, and he's locked inside with 6 Dobermans. See, that's a hook for a made-for-television movie in 1973. I remember when I watched that one, and I was thinking, you know what? This is actually a pretty clever little movie dealing with 6 Dobermans in a locked like a warehouse type of department store. That'd be freaky. That'd be freaky. And the other one I was going to mention was Dying Room Only with Cloris Leachman and Ned Beatty and Dabney Coleman. where and admittedly I'm a sucker for movies where spouses completely disappear without a trace. I mentioned Breakdown earlier, movies like The Vanishing, and that's what Dying Room Only is, where Dabney Coleman, he disappears 5 minutes into the movie, and Cloris Leachman basically spends the rest of the movie, about a full hour, going nuts trying to find her husband. It's a Cloris Leachman showcase, if there ever was one. And you got to remember, at the time, she was on the #1 comedy show in America, which was the Mary Tyler Moore Show. So here we have Sandy Dennis coming out of the house again, as we pretty much repeat the same sequence we saw before with the baby sounds and everything. Seriously, though, since we're coming up on it, well, actually, we've already passed the halfway point. But seriously, everybody in the chat tonight, what do you think of Something Evil so far? Do you think is this working for you in any way? I mean, a friend of mine on Twitter said, there's a couple of prickly scenes. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, there's a couple. There's a few prickly moments. Which is about as good as you're going to get with an early 1970s made for television movie. But on that level, I think it's okay. It's don't expect any huge surprises. Don't expect any real moments of, I mean, sure, there's a couple boom moments, but you know, not much more than that. There is a moment that is actually very distinctive of Spielberg playing around with the camera. We'll get to that when we get to it. But hopefully you don't have the audio on the movie too high, because she's about to scream her head off right there. That looked like an embryo, actually, but looked like an embryo in a jar or something. You know what? I probably screwed that up. So, I'm probably thinking of something else completely, and I'm saying the wrong thing. So don't take that literally. Also, I've been working till noon, since noon today, so forgive me if I'm a little tired, but I think I'm pushing through this okay. Hopefully, I'll be able to sleep tonight after the spook fest. Oh, they must have had fun with the wind machines. Oh my god. Fully concur, Muse. Yes. See, why put a symbol like that on the floor where your kids are sleeping? Really? Uh, uh, oh yeah, that's the circle to protect them from the demon or whatever. I recently watched, even though this is kind of off topic, but I recently watched Hocus Pocus 2, and they did that thing where Bette Midler and Sarah Jessica Parker and Kathy Najimy were, they basically were caught in a garage and they were surrounded by a circle of salt. So yeah, apparently, I mean, you can trap yourself or a witch in one of those circles or whatever. I don't know. I don't know anything about this demonology stuff. it's it's all quite uh foreign material for me. Well, it makes me think of the 1980s, because during that time there was a huge satanic panic. And I can see this film almost playing as propaganda in the 1980s, sort of like with Mazes and Monsters and how that treated Dungeons and Dragons. See, McGavin, he's just so like, okay, whatever. You win. I'll call the realtor tomorrow. That was very poltergeist. Indeed, it was. Yes, indeed, it was. I love the cast, and it's got a great nostalgic 70s vibe. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing. And this is the reason why I find a lot of films from this period, whether it's on television or theatrical, I find them fascinating for just, unusual reasons. Uh, Not merely because of anniversary or the 50th anniversary or whatever, but just because I love films from this period. I love films from the 1970s and particularly the late 60s, early 70s. Even though I wasn't born until 79 and grew up on a steady diet of 80s and 90s movies. But, I continuously go back to the 70s movies for some odd reason. And here again, I'm kind of fascinated by the pre-code films and how those fought censorship back in the early 30s, and then in the late 60s and early 70s, freedom had finally come to the screen. Sexual freedom, violent freedom. You could pretty much get away with anything now. I mean, this was a time when, summer of 72, this was the summer of Deep Throat, where, sex came out of the closet. And movies like Midnight Cowboy, an X-rated film that actually won Best Picture. This was done at a very, very interesting time in film history. That those two periods, the pre-code period and that particular period after the rating systems was formed, I find those films probably the most fascinating. But I still refuse to go back and watch Last Tango in Paris. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. I was appalled by it when I saw it. I'm never going to go back to it. I did a commentary on Bernardo Bertolucci movie just this past Sunday night called Tragedy of a Ridiculous Man. One of the most obscure movies in the world, and yet it got a really high view count. I mean, I noticed it's already closing in on 2,000 views, I think now. I mean, for this. For Tragedy of a Ridiculous Man of all movies, I never would have suspected that. I never would have suspected that in a million years. Luckily, luckily the commentaries I've done that have the highest number of views are Seed of Chucky and Curse of Chucky. Those over 10,000 views. Oh, that spider is so fake. Now, this is just okay. The mother should have called him out much earlier. This is just mean. Come on. Is he that bored? Is he really that bored? It reminds me, my mother actually grew up on a farm, and she told me a story once where, well, I mean, not once, but it happened multiple times where, where her brother liked to lock her up in the meat shed. Whenever she had to go in the meat shed, he would always try to lock the door after her, after she's already inside and everything. Like how mean is that? Oh, see now, yeah, you throw a ball against the side of a house. Okay, fine. As long as it doesn't cause a hole in the side of the house, uh-oh, mama's going crazy. Now, see, this is a perfect example of Spielberg, really thinking, how do I do this sequence? How do I experiment in getting this sequence very effective? For a TV movie, it works. Stone brother, if you're a Scream fan, the Scream 2 4K is knocking my socks off. Oh, I need a. I hope there's a Scream box set coming out soon because I totally buy the Scream box set on 4K. I mean, Scream is not only one of my favorite horror movies, but it's the first movie I saw twice in the theater. First movie I saw twice in the theater in 1996, December of 1996. Yep, I remember it vividly. My father refused to watch slasher movies. I managed to get him and my sister to watch Scream with me, and they shockingly actually liked it. Not their cup of tea at all, but they actually really dug Scream. Paramount owns them now, so that's possible. Yep, yep. I'd be totally down for a 4K Scream set because you know what? I even watched Scream 3 last year. I remember it being pretty bad, and I actually liked it this last time around. So yeah, I officially like all 5 Scream movies. Now I don't like that franchise as much as say like Evil Dead or Psycho. Uh, See, okay, now here's another pretty cool Spielberg sequence. With the wind and the branches and everything. I mean, you could tell he's working it. Regardless, he's working it right here. He's doing what he can to make this as creepy and sinister as possible. Yeah, my mother is definitely possessed by some kind of spirit. Yeah, I'm convinced now. All right, so we are officially we're coming up on the 52-minute mark. The 52-minute mark of Something Evil. Got about 22 minutes left to go. Now, see, you noticed all throughout the film, whenever there's like a flash of light and the scene just kind of ends, whether there's a flash of light or it goes to black, that's of course where the television commercials were. Now, at this time, these television movies, these made for TV movie of the week type things, they would usually only run about 72, 73, 74 minutes. The reason why they could easily fit 16 minutes of commercials to fill a 90-minute time slot. So a lot of these movies played on 90-minute time slots, and you would usually play them about 8:30. Like they would play, I don't know, some show at 8 o'clock, and then they would do, the CBS Friday night movie is going to be Duel, directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Dennis Weaver. And this one, of course, Friday night, January 21st, 1972, that's when we watched Something Evil. Now, this is the shot that they use for a lot of the pictures online of her looking through the door, through the keychain and everything. Now, the actor playing this actor right here, let me cover him real quick. Okay, so this is John Rubinstein as John Rubinstein is Ernest Lincoln. Basically, he is Ralph Bellamy's son, if I'm not mistaken. And he's still with us. He's 75 now. Son of Polish parents, attended El Rodeo Public School in Beverly Hills, made his Broadway acting debut in 1972, and received the Theatre World Award for creating the title role in the musical Pippin. Oh, really? Okay. So he was, let me read that one more time, just because I liked it so much. He made his Broadway acting debut in 1972, the same year that Something Evil came out, and received the Theatre World Award for creating the title role in the musical Pippin, directed by the great Bob Fosse. Yes, the legendary Bob Fosse, who directed Cabaret and all that jazz and Lenny. Oh, what a great filmmaker. In 1980, John Rubinstein won the Tony Drama Desk Los Angeles Drama Critics Circle and Drama Log Awards for his portrayal of James Leeds in Mark Medoff's Children of a Lesser God, directed by Gordon Davidson. Now, I did a commentary on Children of a Lesser God last year, the one with William Hurt and Marlee Matlin, which she got the Oscar for that movie. I am a huge fan of Children of a Lesser God, but I've never seen it on the stage, in all honesty. Other Broadway appearances for John Rubinstein include Neil Simon's Fools, directed by Mike Nichols, Herman Wouk's The Caine Mutiny, Court Martial. Caine Mutiny is one of the most famous of all stories about the United States Navy. It was filmed in the 50s with Humphrey Bogart and Fred McMurray. And it's the one where there's actually a mutiny on board ship. And, there's this whole thing about frozen strawberries and Uh, a great powerhouse finale in a Navy courtroom. Yeah, I love Cane Mutiny. I really do love that one. His appearances in regional theaters, including the musicals Camelot, The Tempest, and The Torchbearers. In 1985, he starred in Merrily We Roll Along at the La Jolla Playhouse. In 2011, he provided commentary for the online broadcasting of the International Tchaikovsky Competition, a classical musical competition held in Moscow, Russia. Twice in 2013 and 2015, Rubinstein appeared in a performance of the Defiant Requiem at Avery Fisher Hall, Lincoln Center. Lincoln has just showed up again. His character's last name is Lincoln. Rubinstein is also the narrator of many audiobooks and is known as the voice of John Kellerman's character, Alex Delaware. In 2016, it was announced that he would join fellow Tony winner Christian Borle in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as Grandpa Joe, directed by Jack O'Brien. He currently teaches a course in musical theater audition techniques at the University of Southern California and directs their spring musicals. Among his feature films include 21 Grams, Red Dragon, Mercy, Another Stakeout, Someone to Watch Over Me, Boys from Brazil, Getting Straight, Zachariah, The Trouble with Girls, and The Car. He also appeared in Being the Ricardos, which is the Aaron Sorkin I Love Lucy movie, where he played Jess Oppenheimer. Pretty cool. And finally, he received an Emmy Award nomination for his portrayal of Jeff Maitland III in the ABC series Family, a role he played on a recurring basis over the course of the series. He also composed the series theme music. He starred for 2 years with Jack Warden in the CBS series Crazy Like a Fox. He also had recurring parts on The Fosters, The Mentalist, Desperate Housewives, Parenthood, No Ordinary Family, Greek, The Wizards of Waverly Place, Dirty Sexy Money, Daybreak, Practice, Star Trek Enterprise, The Young and the Restless, and Barbershop. He directed A Matter of Conscience, which won the Emmy Award for Best Children's Special in 1990. And he is the father of 5 children. Wow. So he started out as the creator of Pippin. That's insane. Wow. So we are now at 58 minutes and 30 seconds. 58 minutes, 30 seconds. Hopefully by next year, I'm going to have an on-screen timer so I don't have to bring up the timestamp every once in a while, even though I feel the need to do it like 3 to 4 times during a commentary. Like I said, we got about 16. I like that, actually. I like how he moved in on both the actors right here. Now, and that's the thing. When you go to, I didn't find much on Something Evil in terms of other people writing about it, obviously. But, and most critics have dismissed this movie anyway. It's been mostly just dismissed. But Neil Sinyard wrote of the film in The Films of Steven Spielberg, quote, Spielberg's direction is nothing short of magnificent. There are splendid montages as Mother Sandy Dennis paints and creates models and mobiles, will eventually be significant in resisting the evil spells. Dazzling dissolves and sinister camera placement for stealthy, apprehensive entrances into fearful places, and a Hitchcockian sense of the moment to throw away explanatory dialogue, the explanation for the house's past, when it is less interesting than the mystery and menace. Oh, and the song that appears in the movie for the commercial, Apple Bar Candy Song, it was performed by Laurie Hagen for the commercial. The song has been spoofed several times. see. One more thing I wanted to check here. At IMDb, there's actually a good number of reviews. There's 49 user reviews for Something Evil. 49. And it's got a rating of 5.3 out of 10. Like I said, for a television movie, it's very, very average. Oh, one thing that I haven't talked about yet is the writer. Because I mentioned him in the beginning and I was going to come back to him. Yes. Robert Klaus had directed Enter the Dragon, which, of course, is arguably the greatest martial arts movie of all time, starring Bruce Lee. And I was shocked to see his name in the screenwriter position here. But before becoming a director, Klaus worked as a still photographer for CBS television. So he was actually working for CBS when they made this movie. He also served in the military. He was also completely deaf, relying on assistant directors later on in his career to verify that actors had delivered their lines correctly. Oh. In the 1960s, he made several short films, twice nominated for an Academy Award for The Legend of Jimmy Blue Eyes and The Cadillac. At the 1964 Cannes Film Festival, the film Legend of Jimmy Blue Eyes was also nominated for the Palme d'Or for Best Short Film. It was also awarded a Golden Globe and an award at the Edinburgh Film Festival. He made his featured directorial debut with Dreams of Glass, a love story between an Asian girl and a white boy. He then followed that film up with Darker Than Amber, 1970, based on the James D. MacDonald novel of the same name, starring Rod Taylor as the protagonist, Travis McGee. Both films are completed and released in 1970. However, Darker Than Amber was released in theaters before Dreams of Glass arrived. In 1971, Klaus directed an episode of the action crime TV show Ironside, which also featured Bruce Lee as Leon Su, a karate, aikido, judo instructor in a martial arts school in the episode Tagged for Murder, an icon with whom Klaus would later collaborate for much of his career. In 1973, he directed Enter the Dragon. After that, he directed Black Belt Jones. I actually watched Black Belt Jones when I was 13 years old on New Year's Eve. Along with Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. I'll tell you, that New Year's Eve, when I saw both of those at 13 years old, one after the other, it forever changed me, I'm telling you. The rest of the 1970s for Klaus would yield the films Golden Needles, The Ultimate Warrior, The Pack, The Amsterdam Kill, The London Connection, Game of Death, and 2 episodes of Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color. Interesting. And he passed away in 1997 at the age of 68. But yeah, he not only wrote Something Evil, but like I said, 1 year after this, he directed Enter the Dragon. Hell, he exploded with his theatrical career even before Spielberg. That's insane. All right, time to go home. Yep, we're coming up. We got 10 minutes left. We just got just roughly 10 minutes left. I've been obsessed with 70s horror lately, so this film is right up my alley. Well, like I said, that Muse. For the rest of the month, I will be doing 50th anniversary commentaries from 1972, all on horror films. So next week, I'll be doing Vampire Circus. I'll be doing Blackula and Blackula Scream next Saturday night. This Saturday night, I am doing the 2 anthologies. Tonight. Yeah, tonight. Actually, yeah, it's Saturday morning. At 9 p.m. tonight, I will be doing Tales from the Crypt. And then right after that, I will be doing Asylum. So both of those are anthology films from 1972. On Sunday night, I will be doing The Phantom, starring Billy Zane, as my next Lad Company commentary. And next week I'll be doing films like Vampire Circus. Um, trying to Later on we'll be doing Brian De Palma's Sisters, Waris Hussein's The Possession of Joel Delaney, starring Shirley MacLaine. I'm really looking forward to watching that because I've never seen it before. Deathline, which was produced by Alan Ladd Jr. in 1972, and Encounters in the Unknown. That's a television movie narrated by Rod Serling, which I will be doing Saturday night along with another film. Let's see, and I'm trying to think of others. Daughters of Satan. I'm going to be doing that. I'm also going to be doing Night of the Lepus, about all the killer rabbits invading the countryside and nibbling on the people, the townsfolk, and they end up calling the National Guard, not Elmer Fudd, unfortunately. But oh yeah, Sandy Dennis is just far gone now. She's okay in this movie. I mean, here again, I'm not sure exactly why she's doing a television movie only 6 years after winning the Oscar, but you know. But I mean, really, I mean, all the other possessed women of these made-for-TV movies, I mean, they almost all just blur together. Or any type of possession movie or any kind of haunting movie, they just all kind of blur together. But I know that there's people that would buy these movies if they would just put them out on physical media, like Shout Factory or Vinegar Syndrome, either just somebody. Although something tells me that even horror fans would not even recognize Something Evil if like Shout Factory gave this like a Blu-ray, like a red carpet Blu-ray treatment with like commentaries and documentaries or whatever. Or hell, if they managed to get an interview with Spielberg, but I highly doubt that. To Spielberg, this is a forgotten footnote, which is completely understandable. I mean, he obviously wasn't very happy making it, due to all the restrictions. And here again, after coming off the massive success that was Duel, you would think he would be given more freedom almost immediately, but he wasn't. No, I mean, and Savage, which is the television movie that came out in '73, we'll do that next year. But I'd be interested to know if he had a little bit more creative freedom on that one. Well, that was a cool shot. Yeah, I noticed a lot in this movie how he likes to follow the characters with the camera, and then of course there was that cool little toad shot that he did. No, he's very big on POV, and he's very big on giving these weird angles that give this maybe give this a little bit of juice that maybe some other television movies at the time didn't have. But here we see this is obviously what happened to the guy in the beginning. He loves his close-ups in this movie too. He really does. I'll say this. It's adequately directed. It's very adequately directed. But I mean, it's definitely an asterisk at best. It's definitely, in terms of Spielberg, it's definitely just an asterisk. Not disposable, but watchable. It's just it. Oh man, I mean, Duel was a near masterpiece. I mean, if you were thinking, I mean, when you turn this on, thinking that, oh, the guy that made Duel, like, no, not quite. But here we have, yeah, I agree with you, Rob. See, there you go. It's like a well-made episode of Night Gallery, which of course is where Spielberg got his start on. Like I said, he loves his wind machine too. Oh, Johnny Whitaker. But yeah, I agree with you, Rob, 100%. This is basically just a well-made episode of Night Gallery. I mean, what somebody should do, like Shout Factory or Scream Factory or somebody, they just need to release something evil and savage on like a dual DVD and just get them out there because like I said, those are the three television movies, including Duel, that they made before Sugarland Express. I look forward to doing Sugarland Express. By the way, that's an underrated Spielberg movie. That was a hell of a ride. It really was. So you see, it's not quite up to Exorcist level, but just keep saying "I love you." Yeah, it's a little repetitive with the dialogue. Like I said, the director of Enter the Dragon wrote this. It just boggles my mind. It just boggles the mind. Mm. Even that shot reminded me of Poltergeist a little bit. But let's be clear here. Poltergeist is not a Steven Spielberg movie. It is a Tobey Hooper movie. And to me, it will always, without a doubt, be a Tobey Hooper movie. I don't care what anybody else says. Tobey Hooper, uh, yeah, definitely. Oh, Spielberg managed to get him between the tree there. There you go. And we end on one of her paintings as well as this, I guess, Satan statue. So check out the cast list right here. So Margaret Avery, that's the actress that Spielberg later put in The Color Purple. See, down there at the bottom, Steven Spielberg, Carl Gottlieb, and Debbie and Sandy, whatever. Decent music score. Yeah, definitely a decent music score. Director of photography, Bill Butler. Uh, so yeah, that's something evil. Like I said, it's not much, but it's something. It's something evil. Basically, basically a CBS television network production filmed at CBS Studio Center in Los Angeles, California. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this was a lot of fun. And tell you what, tonight at 9 p.m., I hope to see you all again as we do Tales from the Crypt, starring Joan Collins. And then after that, we shall be doing Asylum, two British anthologies. So 9 p.m. tonight, and we will go on till midnight. So thank you all for joining me. Christian, Rob, That Muse, and Sandy Gunnar Rude Villamore. If I screwed that up, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I hope you all enjoy the commentary, and you all have a wonderful evening.